This video is for adults only. Viewer discretion is advised. Everything I'm sharing is my opinion.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. It's free and it helps me out a lot. Hey guys, happy holidays. Come on in. I wish I was on camera with you today, but I am under the weather. I am going to do a COVID test later today. So anyway, I apologize. Normally I would get on camera, but I am here. So David had a hit song with the haunting title Romantic Homicide. And as singer David's career began to take off, police were piecing together a completely different kind of story, one that involved an innocent girl named Celeste Rivas Hernandez, who was left in the trunk of his Tesla, and disturbing clues found at a rented mansion, including unusual farm implements. So, what about the managers surrounding David? And what is Department 123? We need to find out what the managers did do and what they didn't do. Welcome. My name is Jessica Della Davies, and this is Reporter Room. And we are going to deep dive this. I want to show you guys one thing that, let me pull this up. Njaz, who is our head mod, along with Mike. Thank you to Njaz, Mike, Deanna, and Veronica for your stuff. David is still selling his awful withered merch with his Tommy with the I don't know what he's got in his hand. Let me know what you think it is, but it he's still selling this online. He never took it down, so it seems like profits over anything else. That's all they care about, is money. So I want to talk about it. Let me pull this up. We're going to go to this TMZ clip, but I want to go through a couple things. So what's really going on the 13th floor of the grand jury, in the grand jury of the courthouse, and what is Department 123, the secret department, which is near the grand jury, also located on the 13th floor. Well, Mark Garagos appeared on another podcast, and I thought this was really, really interesting. Let me pull this up. We're going to go through TMZ next, but I just want to pull this up really quick. Okay. Trying to pull up a video file. It's just not wanting to come up. Well, that's really weird. The site won't take it. That's okay. Let me pull this up instead. I'm just grabbing this. I'm going to try one more time. And I'm having technical issues. I'm going to try refreshing, you guys. Okay, I just went out and came back in. Let's see if I can share the file now. I'm sorry. I have the other one queued up, but it was weird that it wouldn't take that file. There it goes. Okay, I just wanted to play that while we were talking. Okay, sorry about that. So I want to talk about Mark Garagos and what he appeared on a different podcast. He stated that he heard two other witnesses um, that there was reporting about it, that he had heard about it. I don't know if it was Rob M. and Steve Fischer. Steve Fischer, I do not believe went back, but I have an update on private investigator Steve Fischer today too. But Mark Garagos explained that Department 123 is a courtroom for grand jury related issues. So put a pin in Department 123 because this is really important. So Department 123 is a courtroom for the assistant supervising judge. So this is for those of you that don't know, a grand jury, the judge does not just the grand jury does not the judge does not sit in there. It's not presided over by a judge, but there is a judge next door. So, and Mark Garagos, for you don't know, he's a seasoned defense attorney. He's probably the most famous for the Scott Peterson, Lacey Peterson case when he defended Scott Peterson. So he said it's usually this judge that sits in Department 123 is usually grand jury issues. And so this makes sense. So I'm going to tie this up in a bow. And I also am going to talk about this in terms of Steve Fischer in just a second. But Mark Garagos also said that the grand jury meets on the 13th floor. So it's really hard if you have witnesses coming and going from the courthouse to keep it a secret because every reporter or journalist, and I'm sure they are staked out, can see them coming into the building, taking the elevator up to the 13th floor. And I think this is how we got the leaking out that there was a grand jury to begin with and how we found out about Rob M. So we have two huge things happening on the 13th floor. One is the investigative grand jury, and the other is Department 123, the secret department, which is a really important courtroom. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. But Rob M was granted immunity, I believe, allegedly, in my opinion. So was there a problem with his immunity deal, and what did he need immunity from? Well, Mark Garagos told us that if people are going to testify, and a shout out to Mike L. Cole and for helping to research this with me. Mark Garagos says that if people are going to testify and they feel like they're being grilled, so he didn't say Rob M's name specifically, but he certainly sounded like, in my opinion, he was alluding to Rob M and the possibility that Rob M was testifying under a grant of an immunity. So in other words, Rob M may have an immunity duel. So if so, Rob M is then being told, according to what's being reported, to go to Department 123. So this could mean that there is a problem with his immunity deal, which means, and maybe it could also be that the prosecutor, in this case, Assistant DA Beth Silverman, may have thought that he was not testifying truthfully or telling everything. So we're going to consider this and we're going to re-look at what we know. But did you know that an immunity deal can be undone, taken away if somebody lies under oath? So Mark Garagos also said that the LAPD has done, he believes, an amazing job constructing a timeline involving the cell phones. So the cell phones of David, and this may be how they know he had an accomplice, cloud information that was stored in the cloud, and not just Celeste, but others who are testifying. So that he believes that they have multiple cell phones, and that Celeste may have had a burner phone, but they may also have gotten access to that. They may have been able to figure out the burner phone just from looking at the text messages from her and David. Now, Mark Garagos said he believed with the grand jury assistant district attorney looking into everything, that this is why I think there's going to be more people implicated, and they're going to either come forward and testify or they're going to get indicted for obstruction of justice, or possibly an accessory for failing to call the police. So I want to go through this new information from the Daily Mail, and then we're going to go to TMZ. So the Daily Mail is reporting that Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman, who was presenting the case in Los Angeles, told the Rob M's attorney Janess. Now, she apparently is an attorney for someone else that is also connected, was supposed to testify. But Deputy DA Beth Silverman told attorney Evan Janess that she planned to request, quote, a body attachment from Department 123, so the judge that was in there. Now, this order refers to a process issued by the civil court directing the U.S. Marshals to bring the person who has been found in civil contempt before the court, according to usmarshals.gov. So, a lot of people thought this was Steve Fischer, but it's not. It's a female. So the Daily Mail had reached out to David's representatives for comments. So if someone failed to show up to testify before the grand jury, can they be arrested? Let me know what you think. Put a 1 in the chat if you think they can be arrested. Put a 2 in the chat if you believe they cannot be arrested. And so there's a lot of confusion in the reporting around this. And some of the people are wondering if this was private investigator Steve Fischer. It is not Steve Fischer. I just want to clear that up. It is a female witness. Now, Deputy District Attorney Silverman told Rob M's attorney, Evan Janess, that she was going to have the judge issue this body attachment to force this female witness to testify before the grand jury. And it appears that the female witness was a no-show and that the Deputy District Attorney, Beth Silverman, was very upset. She said that she was going to have authorities take the female witness into custody and bring her to the courtroom. So it sounds like she gave this witness's attorney, who just happens to be the same attorney that is representing manager Rob Morganroth. We call him Rob M on this show. So on this channel, we do not know who the female witness is, but it's interesting that she's being represented by the same attorney as manager Rob M, who spent around 3 days testifying, according to the Daily Mail. Now, the general manager of Mogul Vision, that's David's recording label, appeared, and that's Rob M, was way more involved in David's day-to-day life, reportedly, than probably Josh Marshall was. Now, Rob M is someone that the grand jury prosecutor is intensely interested, according to the Daily Mail. And as we reported, we overheard him say in the courtroom hallway that the prosecutor hammered him on why he didn't call the police. Now, we don't know the context, but it's clear that it involved David because he's the suspect, and Rob M is way more than a GM. So what are they talking about? What are they talking about? Well, in my opinion, Rob M is into this up to his eyeballs if he does indeed need an immunity deal. And that Department 123, in my opinion, is proof that there probably is, allegedly, in my opinion, an immunity deal in place. So law enforcement sources say that the mansion is an important piece of the puzzle, and they believe that it implicates David in what happened to Celeste, which police have characterized as a schmurder. Now, Rob M is also the president of Zara Brothers Travel. This is David's touring company, you guys. And TMZ broke the story that Rob M walked out of the grand jury Monday, got to his lawyer, talked loud enough for everybody in the hall to hear. Mark Gergo says it echoes. And he referred to the prosecutor, as I shared with you, as being pushy. And she wanted to know why I didn't call the police. He said, quote, I said I didn't feel like I have the responsibility to do that and just wanted to continue with the tour. And there's another interesting twist. Late Tuesday, they went into, reportedly, allegedly, into Department 123 with Deputy DA Beth Silverman and Rob M and his lawyer. So I think that he may have an immunity, or he may have been getting himself into trouble for either withholding something or perjuring himself. Now, that courtroom is the same one where the judge is going to rule on whether or not to hold another witness in the Celeste Rivas Hernandez grand jury in contempt. That's the female that didn't show up. Now, in this courtroom, there's there is a judge in Department 123. So this ties back to what Mark Garagos shared with another channel yesterday or day before yesterday, which is that there's a court, that Department 123, that people are sent to or go into if there's a problem with their immunity deal, or if they violated their immunity deal by not being honest. So it sounds like she wanted to know why he didn't call the police, and it sounds like he didn't want to answer it, or didn't answer it um truthfully. So is Rob M now withholding information, or trying to? I think once they went next door to the judge, and we don't know what was said because the judge told the TMZ reporter to leave. So we don't know how all this went down. But I do want to say that Rob M was back before the grand jury the following day. So maybe he did want to keep his immunity deal. And let's go and now with that little caveat, we're going to talk about updates on Steve Fischer next.
We know a lot. Let me download you on what we found out. So this week, there has been a witness before the grand jury, and he is intimately involved in David's life, the singer David, who the LAPD and the LA County DA says in a suspect in what they believe is the murder of Celeste Rivas. His name is Robert Morgenroth. Robert Morgenroth is the head of Mogul Vision, which is the label for David. But more than just the executive, the general manager, he is a manager. He manages David, and he is involved in David's day-to-day life.
So some people are speculating that Rob M might also have received the email. Now, SF Investigates says it specifically called out Josh Marshall, but because he was involved in David's day-to-day life, would he also be like, in on that email that was sent from the family, someone from the family of Celeste, telling them that they were harboring a runaway? And then we know Celeste went home the following day. Let's continue on. But I just wonder, like, how, we know that Rob M was supposed to call the police, right? So that's not going to be a good thing, is it? People don't call, he's not going to call the police because he doesn't like something David said, or David refused to show up for work. This is, a grand jury investigation into what happened to Celeste. So most likely he knew something that warranted call the police. So he either knew Celeste was a runaway, and this email does link back to Rob M, which is why he needed an immunity deal, allegedly, in my opinion, or he knew about Celeste when he was at the Fonda Theater, where we have pictures of Rob M attending that concert, and so we know Celeste was there. Let's continue on.
And clearly knows a lot. So on Monday, Morgenroth was in the hallway with his lawyer, and there were people around, and they weren't sitting or standing right next to them, but the hallway echoes. And it was clear to people around there that there was a conversation that Morgenroth was having with his lawyer. And he was recounting what happened inside the grand jury room with the prosecutor in the case. The prosecutor, Beth Silverman, according to Morgenroth, here's what he said. She was very pushy on why I didn't call police. And then he went on to say that he said in response to that, he said, quote, I feel like I didn't have the responsibility to do that and just wanted to continue with the tour.
So this is really disturbing that he didn't think he had the responsibility to do this. That this just really, really bothers me. I just wanted to play that little clip for you guys because I just think this is beyond awful. The fact that, that he didn't think he had responsibility for this. Why would someone refuse to testify before a grand jury um, about this? So I'm going to update on PI Steve Fischer next, but I want to share with you a little bit more about the grand jury and Rob M. So we know that he's had to go back in and he testified. My understanding was he testified for hours on the following day after he was questioned by Assistant or Deputy DA Beth Silverman. And so sometimes what somebody doesn't say is important as what they do say. But I think that this whole thing of him talking about the female deputy DA, who is, a rock star. That's her reputation. She's excellent in her job. Describing her as pushy just describes and shows the level of misogyny that was going on, not just from David, but the men that were around David. So David was not the only misogynist, in my opinion. I believe that to talk about an esteemed attorney like Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman, that Rob M would have never referred to her as being pushy if she had been a man. And I think it's important that we call these things out every single time that they come up, because we either value our girls or we do not value our girls. But it just gets worse for Rob M, because Rob M was also heard telling his lawyer that he explained to the prosecutor he didn't feel it was within his purview to contact authorities in a specific situation. I am not sure, but I think sometimes what somebody doesn't do is as important as what somebody does do. So, what exactly should Rob M have called the police for? Now, of course, logic tells us that this has to be some type of crime, right? You wouldn't call the police because David was refusing to record in his sound studio that day. Rob wouldn't have contacted the police because he got into a disagreement with David. So we know that this grand jury is related to Celeste. So what did Rob M know about Celeste, and why didn't he report this, whatever it was, to the police? Was it to protect his financial interest? Did he somehow justify to himself that his financial interests were more important than the life of a child? Is this why David still has those god awful shirts with the blood spatter up for sale on his website, and his withered t-shirts? So is this why so many people are suspicious of manager Rob M? Manager Rob M also said, quote, "I said I didn't feel like I had the responsibility to do that. And I just wanted to continue with the tour." So that kind of answers the question about what his motivation was, doesn't it? It appears that he put his financial interest above the life of Celeste, allegedly, in my opinion. And it just gets worse, you guys. And I want to give you a trigger warning before I get into the next part. And then we're going to talk about a Steve Fischer update. So according to the Daily Mail, sources have linked the investigation that claimed that when Celeste was found, in addition to having her limbs removed, the Daily Mail is also reporting that there was chopping, I have to watch my words here, into pieces. And this is absolutely heartbreaking. Now, David is innocent until proven guilty. But in my opinion, David set out to destroy this girl, this little girl, in every way possible. He used her. He made her emotionally responsible for his well-being while admitting that he was a bad guy. It's really hard to imagine what kind of mind games he was playing with Celeste. And it gets even more awful because he exploited her for his music. And then he threw her in pieces into a black plastic bag into the front trunk of his Tesla, because in my opinion, he wanted to continue to have domination and wanted to continue to have possession, literal physical possession over Celeste, even after she was gone. And then he appropriated her identity by wearing the Hello Kitty clothes, by wearing her turquoise wig, while he continued to write songs and create videos depicting his dark fantasies, in my opinion. And as I've shared with you in past live streams, I believe that he made that middle of the night run. If you haven't watched my video on the psychology of David, you want to watch that next. But I think he made that middle of the night run to Santa Barbara County because he wanted to get Celeste back from wherever he had her, allegedly, in my opinion. And this was so he could use her and have dominion over her and have possession of her. And I'm also concerned about the reports that we've heard of the LAPD investigating claims by people. This doesn't mean the claims are true, but wondering if he was using parts of Celeste in those awful red painted shirts that he was selling online for $35. So what did these shirts represent to David? What did these shirts represent to us, the public? Just think about that, because mostly I believe it was kids that David was marketing to. I don't think an adult would definitely, I don't see adults walking around in a red splattered painted white dress shirt. But what he was depicting was harming a girl, right? That's what those shirts meant. I don't think we have to mince words about it. That's what he was depicting in his music. That's what he was depicting in his lyrics. It was, and this is what Josh Marshall, who claims this is the other manager in David's life, who says he cares about his 14-year-old daughter. He was willing, along with Rob M., to make money on these type of depictions of girls. And this, and Rob M. didn't want to report anything to the police, allegedly, because he didn't want to stop the tour. So he knew whatever he knew and still continued to make money off of these disgusting, awful depictions of girls, and continued to make money off David, even when he knew who and what David was. He may not have known all of it, but he certainly knew a piece of it, which is why, in my opinion, Rob M. has his lawyer present. And in my opinion, Rob M. got an immunity deal. So while David has been named as a suspect, he has not been formally charged with any crime, but he has not commented on the case either. So I know some people can't believe that David would do something like this, and I get it. I understand how you feel, and I respect your right to have your take on this and your opinion. However, I do have some critical questions to ask you, and one is, if David did not have anything to hide and truly did not know who was in the front trunk of his Tesla, why in God's name didn't he reach out to the LAPD and ask who was in the trunk? Why didn't he hire a private investigator to find out who put Celeste in the trunk? And if David is truly innocent and was just being framed, why didn't he stop his tour once he learned that the victim, we didn't know her name, had a Shhh tattoo that matched his? Because I believe, in my opinion, that this was a pact between David and Celeste, right? Shush, shh, don't tell anyone about our relationship. Because I think the Shush tattoo should have alerted him to the fact that it was Celeste. So again, if David didn't have anything to do with this, why didn't he reach out to the LAPD and say, hey, I think it was my friend Celeste? Why didn't he express condolences publicly for the loss of his friend once the LAPD announced that it was Celeste Rivas Hernandez? Please say her name, put purple hearts in the chat for her. David did nothing. David did nothing. And sometimes what someone does not do is just as interesting as what someone does do. So David did not reach out to her family. David did not reach out to the LAPD to ask who was in the trunk of his car. David did not call them and alert them once he learned that the victim had a Shush tattoo. David wouldn't even stop touring. But what did he do? Because I think that's interesting too. What did David do? Well, he continued to tour. holding mock funerals with an adolescent-sized casket with those horrible red painted shirts, which represented him in the symbolism harming a girl. That's what those shirts were about, right? So now we're learning that the message that PI Steve, the email, though I want to talk about the email. I'm going to talk about Steve Fisher's notice too, because I have some thoughts on that I want to share, and I'm going to do an update on that. But we're also learning that the email that PI Steve Fischer told us about, the email that Josh Marshall claimed he never got, letting him know that Celeste was a minor and that she was missing. Well, maybe that email also went to Rob M. I don't know. But somebody forwarded that email to David around 4 a.m. And just hours after that, Celeste went back home to her parents' house before disappearing again for the final time. So someone in that management company knew about Celeste. And frankly, it's getting harder and harder to believe that Josh Marshall and Rob M. couldn't have known, especially in light of the Fonda Theater pictures of them both at the theater, and she is clearly there. So the idea that no one knew around him is ridiculous. And I think this is why Rob M. is testifying before the grand jury and why he has an attorney there. Because if you didn't have anything to do with it, you would just testify. You wouldn't have your lawyer standing by. That's expensive. So I have an update on Steve Fischer. Let me pull this up for you. Let's do that next. And I also want to continue on talking about David's managers. But let's do this update on Steve really quick. I'm telling you, I was like just absolutely beside myself the other night, just thinking about these men around David and how they have conducted themselves. All right, so I want to talk about Steve Fischer. Let me add this in. Happy holidays, by the way. Okay, so this is an update from him. He says, thank you for the support. But I want to go through the note and I want to look at what it says, but also what it doesn't say. Thank you for the support. I truly appreciate it. For those asking for an update, I said in my tweet, quote, that is why I'm going public before the hearing tomorrow, which I will not be attending. I did not and would not attend a hearing that is not a matter of public record. I am also currently in Georgia on a search for a missing hiker on the Appalachian Trail. Now, I think he was not going to, I mean, he did say that he testified before the grand jury already, twice. So I don't think this was about, because that wasn't a matter of public record either. So I don't think this is a matter of public record, but I understand why he's scared. I'm going to tell you why I don't think he needs to be, in my opinion. But I want to go through this. He says, I have no idea what's happening at the hearing today. That is exactly the problem with the off the docket proceedings. Now, I don't know if SF Investigates Steve Fischer knows about Department 123 or not, but we're going to talk about that and tie this all up in a bow. He said, I have no way of knowing what occurred. I cannot pull any court records because there is no case number. Well, that's because it's Department 123. Our court system is not meant to operate in the shadows. It is not, well, that is how grand juries already operate, because the judge can't be in there. It's just the judge is not present, because the grand jury is not deciding beyond a reasonable doubt. They're just deciding if there's enough evidence to indict someone. But it's also a great way to get all of these people on the record with their stories, right? Which is why Rob M. is there with his attorney. So he says, and notice, the witness that didn't show up. So there's people that were probably refusing to talk to the police. By having the grand jury, it's a way for the DA to gather the rest of the information that they need to proceed with what charges they're going to file, depending on what the grand jury recommends. He says, if anyone believes I do not have the right, then point to a law that says I cannot investigate a case simply because law enforcement or the district attorney may also be involved. Okay, so this is linked to this other thing. I'm not going to reread it because I've already read it. I just want to look at this note. It's not for some type of secret court hearing. This was for Department 123, which is the the little room off to the side. And I want to talk about what it does say and what it doesn't say, because Steve seems to think that he was in trouble, right? He seemed to think he was somehow had violated some kind of court order, that he was in trouble for this. I don't think he was. I think that more likely they wanted to get a clarification in front of this judge because of the stink that Rob M was making with his lawyer, that they may have wanted Steve Fischer to come in and give a clarification on Tuesday, because all of this went down with Rob M on Monday about that email. And maybe that conversation and the testimony that Rob M was getting called on the carpet for, allegedly, in my opinion, was the testimony that why, when he got the email, he didn't forward it to the police or call the police. Instead, he just alerted David. But let's look at what this does say. It says Tuesday, December 9th, 2025. 8:30 a.m., Department 123. So I just want to make that clear that it was for Department 123, 13th floor. And then it gives the address in LA, and then the judge, Judge Olivia Rosales. So he was being invited to Department 123. I don't think it's because he was in contempt. I'm not sure why he read this and assumed that he was. He probably knows that Department 123 is where somebody gets called if they're in violation of their immunity agreement or in contempt, but I don't think that's what they wanted. In fact, I don't think Steve is in trouble for this. I think were looking for him to clear up this dispute with Rob M. I could be wrong. He could be in big trouble, but I just don't think that he is. I don't think they were going after Steve. And the reason is, I don't see anything in this note that talks about being in contempt. I don't see anything about him being in contempt. He says, I was ordered to appear in Los Angeles criminal court for an order. Let me take this down and just show you what he said, what he was like stressed about. Hold on, I'm going to find where I was. And, he's saying, I was told I broke the law. So I don't know if somebody like verbally told him that. Like, I don't know where he got that from, because Department 123 is the judge that's overseeing any problems with testimony. So it could be they were just trying to get a clarification between what he was claiming about that email and what Rob M was probably arguing with his lawyer that we didn't get to hear. But it could be not related at all, but that's my take on it from what we know about it so far. So I don't think Steve Fischer is in a lot of trouble, and I'm going to tell you why. I think that the prosecution absolutely needs Steve Fischer. I think he's done good work in this case on behalf of his client. I always told you guys, I shared everything that he told us with the caveat that he did have a dog in this hunt. He was working for the owner of the mansion. Now, Steve Fischer alerted the court that he couldn't be there. He didn't just not show up, which is why I don't think anybody was putting in to have him arrested. He's also not in the state of California. He says that he was in Georgia and is still in Georgia. So I think Steve Fischer is going to be an important witness for the prosecution. And so I think the district attorney's office is going to work with him to get a positive resolution to whatever this was about this note, because they are going to need his testimony about the email. Now they could, they can get it because he's, already talked about the grand jury, but I still think that this can have a positive resolution, in my opinion, between Steve Fischer it doesn't say in the note that he's in contempt. So I guess somebody told him that. But I'm just wondering if something got lost in translation. Let me know what you think. Do you think Steve Fischer was in contempt, or do you think Steve Fischer, they just wanted to clear something up with him and that it really just was benign? I just really want to get your input on this. So I want to talk a little bit more about Josh Marshall. And I just, and also what Mark Garagos said. So defense attorney Mark Garagos and TMZ founder Harvey Levin revealed in their episode of Two Angry Men, and people reported something similar from a police source, but added that the unnamed person likely participated in the disposal of Celeste after she had been done away with. And so the accomplice not only knew about Celeste, but helped to get rid of her in a cruel and careless manner. And she was found, as I shared with you, in pieces. In pieces. So whoever this accomplice is, I hope the authorities release their name very, very soon. And, I'm sorry if I sound a little bit emotional about this, but I could not imagine the depravity and the greed and the cruelty that led not just to a day and not just to a week and not just to a month, but years of essay by David, allegedly, in my opinion. So, what does David's Withered album tell us about what likely happened to Celeste? Because there's a lot. There's a lot. So, just days before David was linked to that $100,000 Tesla, he was promoting his deluxe version of his debut album, Withered, right, on Instagram. And so just know that the white rose in Withered, I believe, represented Celeste. And if you look at the sequence of his other albums, you can see they're all different stages of this relationship. And I believe David planned in advance of what he was going to do to Celeste. I don't think this was an accident. And I think that the Withered album depicted what happened to her and the fact that she was gone. And if you watch David's promo, I can't show it on my channel, but if you watch his promo for the Withered on YouTube, you can see David as laying there as himself, David, surrounded by flowers. In my opinion, he copied Twilight. And then he is dragged, he is replaced by his alter ego, Itami. And of course, this is David, who said he's a bad boy trying to be good. That was his shtick, right? I'm a bad guy trying to be good. But this was him symbolically being replaced by pure evil, because Itami means pain. So he released his 2 EPs in 2023, Petals to Thorn. So you can see the flower. So, and then the Lost Petals, both through Interscope. That's the label that signed him in September of 2022. And that label signed him. Just keep that in mind. Despite, and I just think we need to start calling this stuff out, you guys. Despite seeing the lyrics to his music, the label was okay with those awful music videos and those awful shirts. And they okayed this man touring around the country with an adolescent-sized casket, holding mock funerals and selling red painted shirts that depicted his alter ego, even in the best light. It depicted his alter ego doing away with someone, a female. And that's why the shirts are covered in red paint. That's supposed to be the blood. So I don't know what these men are thinking. It's just all so gross, and it's all so degrading to our girls. Let me know what you think about this. But I think that the language that went around David and the people that were around him are just awful. I want to say thank you so much to Michael for the super sticker. I'm going to go through the poll. I am sorry I'm not on camera. I am really sick, you guys. I am here. I am here. I did not want to miss this. I want to thank NJAS for gifting a reporter room membership. That is so. And then NJAS gifted 5 reporter room memberships. Wow, that's so kind of you, NJAS. From NJAS, please make sure you say thank you. And people always ask me, how do I get a free reporter room membership? Well, how you get one is NJAS will be given a list of people that she picks through, and she can decide but she can only decide off that list. And how does YouTube put that list together that they're going to present to her or have presented to her? They do that by how active you are in the top chat. So the more you comment, the better chance you have of being put on the list that Enjaz gets to pick from. I also want to thank Enjaz for the 20 pounds super thanks. That is so kind of you. Thank you so much, Enjaz. And I am going to talk to you, and I want to thank Enjaz because she gifted another 5 reporter room memberships. Wow. Thank you so much. So for those of you that are keeping track, that's 11 reporter room memberships. Thank you so much. So thank you, Ramona. I didn't want to miss this. This was just, I was so emotional while I was going through all of this. I want to see where you guys are at on the poll. So I'm looking for 1s and 2s. I want to see where you guys are at on that. I think I'm way behind on chat, but I do want to chat with you guys. Oh, here we go. I found them. Okay. Michael, thank you for modding today. Hey, Catalina. Tara says, hi, Tara. And Jess says, please like and share and subscribe. Yeah, liking, sharing, subscribing, dropping me a comment all lets the YouTube algorithm know that I'm doing a good job. Hey, D, thank you for modding today. Enjaz, D, Michael, and Tara. This is our head mod, Mike, our other head mod, Enjaz. Rufio says, D4VD caught explaining the smell in his home. Yeah, I heard about that. I heard about that. We might talk about that. So Octopus put a 1. Michael put 1. Let's see. We got 1. Graybird said 2. David, 2. David, 2. David, 2. David. Alleycat put 1. Tammy put a 1. Thank you for modding today, Tammy. Graber said, yes, they can get arrested. LaDonna said, kind one, hope everyone's having a blessed day. Bless you too. Hey, Whippers. Mel Kristen put a 1. I'm just looking for a thing. Cabling, I saw you in here. Where are you? There's Cabling. Thank you so much for modding today, Cabling. Is there anybody modding that I have not called your name out? Please drop me a comment right now so I can see. So I can shout you out just to say thank you to our mods. Dee says, please hit that like and subscribe. And yeah. And if you want to, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Angie says, just got off work here. Late, love your content. Rian says, thank you to our moderators, Enjaz, Michael, and our mods. We do have the best mods. Our group, we had called them, thank you for the 1, Rian. The mods are called Mods Are Us. If you want to know about the poll, just back up the chat. You guys know anytime I'm live streaming, if you come in late, you can always back the chat up to look and see what something was and then come back to it. And Tony says, I have a few things to say about it. I couldn't pull it without the music, so I just sent the link so you can capture the picture. I don't know. I'm not going to be able to capture a link. I don't think that's going to come up, Antonia. Yeah, you'll have to just say what you think. Miss Anon says, you can't help but see those huge brown eyes when you look at her. I know. I teared up the other day when I was trying to get this script together. I just felt so sad for the people that were around her and just the lack of action that was taken to protect her. And and just the idea. Thank you, Lori, for modding today, and Tammy for modding, and Jazz is our head mod with Michael. Thank you, Cabling, for modding. Yeah, it made me really sad. It made me really sad just to think that this could go on and that these managers would just stand by and okay this. I mean, look at this shirt, you guys. They were selling these. I mean, let me pause that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at the shirts. Hey, LaDonna. The mods are awesome. You're right. Look at those shirts. I don't think those were being marketed to adults. Do you? I think those were being marketed to kids, in my opinion. So yeah, I think it's disturbing as heck that he was okay with marketing these shirts and that the managers were okay with it. It just broke my heart, and it just makes me wonder how Celeste must have been feeling toward the end of her life. Because I do believe that what would have probably happened was a slow degradation of her, especially as she started to look more like a young woman, right? And less like a little girl. I think that whatever feelings he had for her would have turned to hate. And I think that, he would have had to have denigrated her in his own mind. And I think that, that he would have continued to do that. I think he planned this for a long, long time. And so the Withered album and the other albums that what came before it. And then he appropriated everything about her, the Hello Kitty. And Josh Marshall and Rob M just stood by and let it happen. And I think that this knife symbol with her head, like this, that he posted together, are also to me show that he had already done it or he was thinking about doing it. Cole says, doesn't show the whole chat when you come in late. I'm not sure what you mean. If you drop a comment, it'll show up. It should show up. Rian said, I saw that video about the smell that David was talking about. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, I don't know what that was about. LaDonna says, I missed the survey. You can back up the chat, LaDonna. You could back it up. This is my tip line. If anybody wants to send me a tip, email me with a tip. This isn't a tip like a waiter or waitress type of tip. It's like a tip for a journalist. If you have a tip on this case, if it's something that's law enforcement related, please send it directly to the LAPD. But if it's just some information that you found, you can send it. Yeah, you can send it to my email, Antonia. Jenny said, absolutely, Jessica, I agree with you. Rufio said, I think SF didn't appear because he's sticking to the law to avoid forced testimony, maybe to protect his investigation details, his client's mansion, or just to keep sharing information publicly on his terms. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I don't think I think the fact that he at least alerted the judge and alerted the court to where he was, that he wasn't in the state. I think it would be a hardship on most people to travel from Georgia to California on last minute notice. They may have just assumed he was in town and didn't realize, but I don't know. Rufio says, deep down, it feels like a clever dodge to stay in control, but it risks looking like he's hiding something or slowing down the case for Celeste's family. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Right now, I do think he's done really good work. Hey, Lori, thank you for modding today. LaDonna says, I love Jessica, so polite and so kind. Like the mods. That's you guys, mods. That's the mods. And we do have a Reporter Room Facebook group. If you type in Reporter Room and D4VD, it should pop up. Rianne says, I wonder if any of those people feel bad about not saying anything to save Celeste. It sure doesn't seem like it. This is where I talk about he appropriated Celeste. Let me move myself. You can see he's in that wig. And there's Celeste's wig. He literally appropriated. He possessed her in every way that he could, in my opinion. In every way that he could. He appropriated her Hello Kitty. He put her in the trunk of the car. Yeah, I don't know why he's not in handcuffs. This is my opinion. So after listening to Mark Garagos talking about this, my feeling is that they wanted to get as many people on the record under oath, right? Because you can lie to a police officer and not get in trouble, but you cannot lie to the FBI. But in this case, the LAPD needed him to talk, but you cannot lie under oath, right? That's perjury. So they wanted to get these people with whatever they were going to say on the record under oath. And that was the purpose of having this grand jury. So I think even though it has slowed everything down and a lot of people are wondering, why isn't he in handcuffs? I think it is them allowing for the fact that they are able to get all of these people on record, all of these people in sworn testimony under oath, to make a final determination as to what the charges are going to be. And in my opinion, it means that they're trying to get everything on him. But I felt the same way you did the other day. So I get how you feel. She does. And she was. I just wonder, like, treated like trash. Yeah. I just wonder how awful she would have felt toward the end of her life. When he went from acting like she, how narcissists do with that narcissistic discard, and I'm not saying he's just a narcissist. I think there's more to it than just that. But the narcissistic discard is like they discard you in the most cruel way as possible. And so I think that he would have started to denigrate her, in my opinion, just like we saw in the Chris Watts case with Shanann, where Shanann just looked so tired and exhausted by the end of her life before she was done away with. And I think that, she was under a lot of mental stress. And I just can't even imagine, because Shanann was a grown woman and had people around her. Celeste was really isolated. She was a runaway. She was a missing girl who was hiding from her family. So what power would Celeste have actually had from this monster, allegedly, in my opinion, to do something like this with her, to her? What power did Celeste have in this? In my opinion, she wouldn't have had a lot of power. She would have been really isolated. She would have been on her own. David was surrounded by his sycophants, his enablers, in my opinion. And, even the fact that there was one of his enablers didn't even want to show up to court to testify, even after learning. I hope we get to find out who this person was. What kind of despicable excuse for a human being would find out what happened to Celeste and then would refuse to go to the grand jury? So either this person has a lot to hide, or this person doesn't care and didn't care and never cared and still doesn't care, even after she was found in the trunk. LaDonna says, and remember, Steve Fischer said you could tell everything changed. Noritu says, if it was, they wouldn't be able to live. Yeah, I don't know what it was. I'm glad. I hope they took it down. I just clicked on it and it went right through for me. So maybe they're watching. Maybe they're watching and took it down. But it shouldn't still be up. Thank you for modding today, Susan and Lori and Dee Dee. Dee Dee, Antonia says, I still say this is a partial cover-up for his relationship with his friend. I don't know. Lori says he's so creepy, in my opinion. Yeah. And Susan said, if so, then he profited on it. Michael said they're going to be sorry when they're in prison. Yeah, she did. Why would somebody not want to testify? Why wouldn't you want to help once you found out what happened to Celeste, right? That would be a good, honorable, decent person would be tripping over themselves to go and testify to the grand jury and say what happened and what they saw, unless they had something to hide. And the fact that they had the same attorney as Rob M. is really, really interesting. It doesn't mean they're connected, because LA is not that big of a town. It could just be that this is a really good lawyer, but it is interesting. I'll just leave it there. Tammy says, I saw on Reels the other day that David is back in California. I don't know if he is or isn't. But if I were him, I would be meeting with my lawyer. And Tony says they have a lot of playmates in prison. Yeah. Rufio says, I don't know, something about how Neo and Sakura looked into that camera. Oop, after D4VD apologized for the smell, it was eerie. I don't know. I mean, David was his boss, so he may have felt like he had to. But, I don't know. Yes, say yes. Says they handle celebs with kid gloves because they know they have a powerhouse representation. Don't want to make any mistakes that could ruin such a critical case to get to. I think you're right. Yes, is it Yesesa? Yesesa, like you say so, like Yesesa. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I agree. I think that they may not have wanted to make any mistakes. They want to get this right. They want to get justice for Celeste. And the best way to get justice is to get all of these people on the record. And if they do have an immunity deal and they don't tell everything, then they're going next door to Department 123 to go before the judge, because then their immunity deal can be revoked and everything that they have shared can be used against them. Riffy said there's a crazy AR article on news today that details a timeline and names some bizarre names. Granted, it's fake. Well, yeah, I would be careful of the AI. There's like so much misinformation. And I saw this in the Diddy trial too, where there was like it's a couple of accounts that were just posting complete garbage, but because the trial wasn't open to the public, a lot of people clicked on it. And I'm like, they probably made millions of dollars. Whoever was behind these AI accounts. Michael, who is our head mod along with Edjas, is asking all of the mods to please encourage everybody to like and share. Yasesa says Isa. Ya Isa. Is that right? I feel like I'm goofing this up. Yes. Ya Isa. All right. Maybe it's Isa. And I'm just really goofing it up. I am so sorry. Please tell me if I'm still goofing it up. Paid, yeah, the mods. Dee, thank you for modding. Please smash that like button. Rufio said, yeah, I've never seen a timeline painted out like this article did. It could be okay. I mean, I don't know. The thing is, if it doesn't have a name of a person behind it, then there's really nobody accountable. Cabling said, yeah, paid bots. Exactly. There's nobody being held accountable for it. So I think that's a problem. Noritu says, kids that age feel invincible. I can't imagine she thought he would ever think of physically harming her. Poor girl. Yeah, I agree. Circus Song says, D is obsessed with the number 4. He even uses it in his name. D is also obsessed with Japanese culture. The number 4 and dead is pronounced like she, like my name is dead. Ooh, that is ominous. Oh my gosh. And everybody's like, everyone in the bushes, please. If you're lurking around in the bushes, I love you and Jazz. Ms. Anon says 4 has a lot of meaning in numerology. All right, let's pull up the number 4. Let's pull it up because we know everything was symbolic to David. So let's look it up together. Number 4 symbolism. Okay. I got to take this down while we go through this. Let me take this down. All right, let's look at it. Okay. So number 4, significance interpretation. This is my source on this is how stuff works. So angel numbers hold deep meaning and are believed to be messages from the universe into our guardian angels. One such powerful angel number is 4, which is associated with safety, support, stability, and spiritual guidance. In this article, we will explore the profound significance of the number 4. So this is all about angel numbers, it sounds like. Let me just see if there's anything that's not so specific, just more of a general. Let's see. Okay, this is a blog. Okay, so this says, I'm going to put this back up. Okay. So this says that the number 4 symbolizes stability, order, and foundation. It represents the 4 cardinal directions, the 4 seasons, and the 4 elements: earth, air, fire, and water. It's associated with the square, solid structure in a religious context with completeness as seen in the 4 gospels or the 4 sides of the earth. Overall, 4 signifies balance, the physical world, and the completion of a cycle. Now think about David's albums, right? And the cycle of the albums. Let's see. So here's the chronological order of them. The first one was May 26th of 2023. He released Petals to Thorns. And that's the one that had Romantic Homicide in Here With Me. The second album he released was Lost Petals, and that was on September 8th, which was Celeste's birthday of 2023, with a follow-up EP that expanded on his initial themes, including Notes from a Wrist. And then the third album was Withered, which was released in April of 2025. This is his first full-length album, building on his earlier work. So it does seem like, you know, I'm not like seeing anything. Let me just ask it. I'm going to ask about the number 4. Let's see what I get back. It says many land vertebrates have 4 limbs. The human heart has 4 chambers. There are 4 main human blood groups in physics. It's the 4 dimensions in geometry. It's used in construction because of its stability. And then it's also a composite number divisible by 1, 2, and 4, and the second squared number. So I don't know if this, why he picked that. He may have just picked it because it was similar to the letter A. And he wanted to be cool and have his name be something like that. All right, let's look that up. All right, let's look it up in Japanese culture. Let's see what I can pull up here. Oh, it's 42 is shani. Can sound like, but that's 42, 43, and 44, 49. But the number 4 by itself, I don't see anything. So I don't know if he just picked it. I do think it's an interesting rabbit hole to go down. So thank you for the question, Rianne. And if you guys find something that I've missed, please feel free to email me with it. Rufio says the whole string theory thing, I found relations to some of his dad's work and ideals, especially when it comes to David's father and relativity brain space program. Very interesting. LaDonna said the angel numbers, I know one day he will be held. And Rianne says withered means an ending. I agree. I think that was the rose is withering. It's dying, when I think that's exactly what happened. Michael is having Mexican tonight. It sounds delicious, Mike. I'm going to be. Thank you for modding today, Kay Blaine. Antonia says upside down, the A4 is similar to the letter E. Yeah, I'm going to have to do some research on this. And this is my email if you want to email me. Thank you, Enjaz. And Rianne says David spells D3 at D in a cryptic form, allegedly. Very interesting. Isa says, I wonder how much we'll learn about Celeste as an individual, separate and apart from him. Yeah, I don't know. It depends. It depends. And just is thanking everybody for being here. Thank you, Antonia. Delana says, thanks, Enjaz. I did my subscribe button. I had to wait for 5 minutes to chat again, but hopefully it fixes my notifications. Oh, I hope so too. I'm glad you did that. Yeah, if you ever aren't getting your notifications, you can re-hit the thing. I want to thank Kami for gifting a Reporter Room channel membership. Thank you, Kami. If you receive that, please make sure you say thank you to Kami. Thank you, Kami. That is so kind of you. Very, very nice. I did pronounce it, so it is Isa. Okay, thank you. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to make sure because that kind of stuff is really important. Um, I'd love to be able to say people's names correctly. I do want to say a shout out to our executive producer Enjaz for helping me with modding today, but also helping me with research too. Really awesome. And a shout out to our producers, Sasha Angel, George Brown, Michael L. Cole, Christy Ballantyne, and our newest producer, Tina Hernandez. Thank you so much, Tina. And a shout out to our awesome channel members. Subscribing is free and helps the channel out a lot. And if you want to help out the channel a little bit more, you can consider becoming a channel member. It's $2.99. And we do members only videos, members only live streams. And you're most welcome to join, but you certainly don't have to. I know some people are, struggling, and this does seem like we're maybe trying to get our Christmas holiday stuff. I'm just on a personal note. Do you have your Christmas tree or your holiday decorations for whatever holiday you celebrate? Maybe you don't celebrate Christmas. Do you have that up yet? Yes or no? And also a super thanks and coffee gratitude. Thank you so much. And also a super gifted channel memberships. Thank you so much, you guys. Well, I'm gonna check back in with chat here. Let me see. Kami, thank you for modding, says yes, we have them, tradition for us to do on Thanksgiving. I put mine up on Thanksgiving too. Lori says the tree is up. Is your tree up, you guys? Thank you, Cami, Rian says. And Jess says, please make sure to click the notification bell. Yeah, I'm going to schedule another D4VD live stream and Celeste Rivas Hernandez live stream. But I always put it like 2 or 3 days out. That doesn't mean I'm going to wait that long to go live. If there's breaking news, I'll go live sooner. If somebody's arrested, obviously I'll go live sooner. So go ahead and turn your notification bells on in case I do have breaking news. Thank you, Dee. And Michael says he has his tree up. Bonzi B says it's up. That's great. And thank you so much. I just want to wish everybody a happy holidays. I'm going to schedule another David live stream for 3 days from now, but I may go live sooner than that. I may go live in a day or two. It just really depends on, what the news is. Oh, Noritu says since November 1st. Wow, you're like really on it. Cole says Steve Fischer was not given 15 days notice with a formal subpoena. Both are California laws. So Friday with a handwritten note to appear following Tuesday wasn't binding. Yeah, I think, and I don't think they're going to, even if it was, and I agree with you. I don't think it was. I think that, in my opinion, this is just my opinion. I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a judge, but in my opinion, they're not going to want to ruin their relationship with Steve Fischer, because I do think that he is going to be an important part of this case. So thank you so much for coming by to spend a little bit of time with me and for bearing with me while I get over this. Hopefully I'll be feeling better by tomorrow or the next day. And I will see you guys hopefully with great news, like an arrest has been done. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. It's free and it helps me out a lot. Give this a thumbs up and drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section below.